Again, good day everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Change the Channel, Keep the Customer, brought to you by Jacada. I'm your host, Lee Judge. Our presenters today are Kate Leggett, Principal Analyst at Forrester Research, and standing in for Steve Herlocker, who is currently attending Mobile World Congress, is Chris Dutoy, Product Marketing at Jacada. Today we will explore the importance of delivering a consistent customer journey and providing a consistent customer experience across all of your interaction channels. So, we'll begin with our first presenter, Forrester's Kate Leggett. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Lee, and thanks for having me today. And thanks to all of you on this webinar for taking an hour out of your busy days and listening to both Chris and myself. So like Lee said, today we're going to talk about multi-channel customer service, how to do it well, and why it's important. But before I do so, I want to take a big step back and talk about customer experience, how companies do at delivering good customer experiences in line with expectations, why it's so important, and then I want to highlight the link between great customer experiences, customer loyalty, and multi-channel customer engagement. So, to start off, what I want to do is quickly go through some statistics that we have at Forrester. And at Forrester, we have lots and lots of data that I'll be sharing on this webinar. So, our data says that 90% of customer experience decision makers think that a good experience is critical to their company's success. 63% think that the importance of customer experience has increased as products and services become more and more commoditized, and companies use their differentiated customer experience as a way to stand out from the crowd. But then you have to ask yourself, how do companies actually do at delivering these great experiences that seem to be so important to many companies? So, it's a great question, and for the last 6 years, Forrester's been measuring the customer experience that over 160 brands and 40 verticals deliver by asking 3 very basic questions. How useful was the interaction? Was your question answered? Was your transaction completed? How effective was the company at meeting your needs? How easy, how frictionless was the company to do business with? And then lastly, how enjoyable were they to do business with? So what you have on this pie chart on the screen here is our consolidated data over the last 6 years. So what you'll see are groupings of companies that delivered excellent experiences right at the top, then good experiences. Those are the ones in the red box. And everything else, the companies that delivered okay, poor, and very poor experiences are below the red box. And the dark blue bands is our data from December of last year. It's our most recent data. And the takeaway of all this data on the screen is that only a third of companies deliver positive customer experiences. And if you look at the numbers over the last 3 years, this number, this third of companies that provide positive experiences, has been staying fairly constant year over year. And just for you to know, you can drill into all this data and find out what the actual customer experience score was for a particular company that we surveyed, and all that information is up on the Forrester website. What's interesting to note is if you dig a little bit deeper into this data, is that there's a wide variability between industry segments and their ability to deliver great experiences. And here again, I'm just showing a subset of the data that we have. And what you see are like the retailers, the hotel chains, the parcel delivery shipping providers provide the best customer experiences. They're at the top of our list. At the bottom, it's no surprise, like you see health insurance plans, internet service providers, telcos, TV service providers, wireless service providers. But what's also interesting is that if you look within a particular industry, one of the verticals, the horizontal lines on the screen, is that there is great variability within a particular industry. Like look at how long that horizontal line is for banks or for airlines, for example. So what this means is that there are most likely some examples, some companies within your industry that are providing stellar customer experiences. And you should really be keeping an eye on these companies and trying to model yourself after them, or better yet, do a better job than they do. So, all this talk about customer experiences. We know that companies put a lot of weight into delivering great customer experiences, yet very few companies deliver experiences in line with customer expectations. But then you have to ask yourself, why do you actually care about good customer experiences? And it's because delivering good experiences is good for business. So you think about a happy customer. A happy customer is one that is a satisfied customer. A satisfied customer over and over again will correlate to a loyal one. And a loyal customer is willing to spend a larger wallet share during their engagement lifetime with a company. And so at Forrester, we try to quantify this customer loyalty and the correlation to revenue impact. And what we do is we measure customer loyalty across 3 dimensions: additional purchases, churn reductions, and word of mouth. And we measure this by industry vertical. And what we do is, but for each vertical, we have a calculation that tries to quantify the revenue impact of loyalty across these 3 dimensions. And that's what all the data that you're looking at on the screen. And the takeaway is the correlation between customer loyalty and increased revenue is there to a lesser or greater degree for every single industry that we survey at Forrester. So net, why do you care about good customer experiences? Is because it's good for business. So, what is the tie between customer experience and customer service? And the tie is that customer service is a cornerstone to a company's customer experience strategy. So we asked what companies' top customer service goals were. 40% of them said that improving the customer experience was their top goal. Another 40% said it wasn't their top goal, but it was in one of their top 3 goals. And that is why customer service has such a tie to customer experience. Customer service is a cornerstone, a foundational building block to a company's customer experience strategy. So, why is it so difficult to provide customer service experiences, and customer experiences in line with customer demand? And let's look at the customer service organization. So, these guys have the hardest job in the company. What they have to do is walk this pragmatic balancing act between the needs of their customers and the needs of their business. So let's look at customers for a minute. So customers of today, like all of you on the phone, you know what great service is. And you expect this level of service from any company that you do business with, over any touch point, any communication channel. that you choose to use to engage with a company. And what is the type of service that you want? It's not this Disney-esque, outstanding service. What you want is effortless, easy service. You want to get in, get your question answered or your transaction done, and get out. And our data backs this statement up. So here you go. 52% of U.S. adults say that they will abandon their online purchase if they can't find a quick answer to their question. And I like this statistic. 71%, that's 3/4 of you, think that valuing your time is the most important thing a company can do to provide you with good service. So, however, as you all know, in 2/3 of cases, you're disappointed with the level of service that you receive. And what do you do when you're disappointed? In the world of social media that we live in, you end up blasting out this disappointment via social media channels. And what happens is that disappointment can get quickly amplified. And what this does is it helps erode a company's brand. So at Forrester, we try to quantify this broad reach of social media. And what you're looking at here on the screen is something that we call the Forrester Social Technographics Ladder. And we try to use this to quantify the impact of negative comments on a brand. So on the left-hand side, you see our data for B2C companies. On the right hand of the ladder, you see our data for B2B companies. So let's look at the top red box. It's called creators. These are the folks who are, after a poor service experience, tweeting about it, or blogging about it, or negatively rating you on a 5-star rating scheme, or writing a Facebook post about you. In the B2C world, it's 23%. In the B2B world, it's 32%. However, the damage is done in the box below called spectators. And these are the folks who are consuming these negative comments and negative impressions. They're the ones reading the negative reviews. In the B2C world, that's 68% of you, but in the B2B world, it's 80% of you. And this is why a negative comment that's propagated via social channels actually has a very broad reach. So, back to our poor customer service organization who's walking this tightrope balancing act between customer needs and business needs. So, looking at businesses know that a good customer experience is important. But you think back to the last 5 years that we've lived through, and businesses, because of economic pressures, are still very much focused on cost control measures, even though they say that great customer experiences are important. The projects that they are engaging in are projects that are very pragmatic, that have a real quantifiable ROI. And they may incrementally move the needle on customer experience, but they're not going to be those transformative projects that make a huge impact. And again, I think this is just a sign of the times that we've lived in and given the economic conditions from the last 5 years. So, one solution that many companies are looking at adopting is by deploying channels that are alternative to voice, because these cost a fraction of what a phone call costs. But then you have to ask yourself, deploying these channels, are they the right channels for your customers? And so here's an eye chart for you. It shows you the channel usage on the vertical axis: phone, help, email, chatting, SMS, etc., by demographic. going from the very young, the Generation Z, from the 18 to 23-year-olds, all the way to the golden generation. And the takeaway of this data is that the phone is still the most widely used channel. However, it's very quickly followed by online web self-service. These are your FAQs, your online content. Then that is followed by email. The demise of email is very premature. We still see email being used. Then followed by chat, followed by click-to-call, and then some of the social channels. What's more important to realize is that this channel mix has been changing year over year. So what you're looking at here, the light blue bars designate the channel usage from 3 years ago, from December of 2009. The dark blue bars is the channel usage from December of last year. And so what you see is that some channels haven't moved much. For example, the phone channel is used as much this year or last year as it was 3 years ago. But look at some of the other channels. There's been huge increases in some of the other channels being used in customer service. For example, online web self-service in the last 3 years jumped from 57 to 67%. Chat has jumped from 30 to 43%, a 13% increase. Twitter has jumped from 11 to 22%, an 11% increase. And then there's some channels like click-to-call, virtual agents, screen sharing, that's co-browsing, that weren't even on our radar 3 years ago that are now being substantially used. So the takeaway here is that your channel usage that customers are using today for customer service is rapidly changing. And it's also different for the different industries and the different types of customers that you have. And what you need to do is understand the needs of your customers and how they want to connect with you, and ensure that you've got an architecture and a multi-channel strategy that's agile enough to be able to quickly react to your customers' changing behavior, because that is a necessary cornerstone of keeping them satisfied and loyal. So here's some more data for you, and again, these slides will be available for you, and I know this is an eye chart as well, but it's got the satisfaction ratings of these different channels. And what you see is that the live assist channels, like phone, like chat, when a customer is interacting with a live agent on the other end, end up to do a lot better than the self-service channels, like web self-service or virtual agents. And this is pretty readily explainable. Many companies end up deploying self-service channels because they're available at a cost that is a fraction of what a voice call costs. But once they do their preliminary implementation, they walk away from it without doing any of the constant care and feeding and maintenance to be able to ensure that your offering is still relevant and in line with customer demand. So there are best practices for each of these communication channels that are very well documented, and many companies have shied away from using and maintaining their channel presence via best practices. So again, it's important to understand what channels your customers want to use. It's also important to ensure that they're deployed via best practices. So channels is one part of the equation. The other part is to understand the journey that customers want to take with you. And what this picture is showing on this PowerPoint is a customer starting a conversation on one channel, like a form, and then moving the interaction or the conversation to another channel, like a Facebook page. et cetera, over all the different social, web, in-person, contact center, and mobile channels. So the takeaway of this is that a customer wants to interact with a customer service organization using the channel of their choice, either voice or electronic or social. They want agents to know who they are, what products they've purchased, what interactions they've had in the past. And they also want to be able to start a conversation on one channel, like email, and then move it to another channel, like the phone, without having to restart the conversation all over again. And they also want the experience in dealing with a company to be consistent across the different channels. So the same data, the same information, the same processes followed across these different channels. However, in most cases, this journey is fractured. Customers are stuck in one channel. They're stuck to start and end a service interaction, for example, the email channel. There's no way that they can escalate it to, for example, a phone channel. And why is this the case? Is if you look under the hood, most companies are a mess of disconnected technology. And what you're looking at here on the screen is the technology infrastructure of a major telecom carrier in the United States. And these agents use over 40 different applications over the course of their workday to service customers. And they're hunting and pecking through all these different applications to find the right information to help the customer out. And it's no wonder that different agents follow different processes to help customers out. And these customers sometimes get different answers to their questions. And as a result, your customer satisfaction scores plummet. So, one issue is that companies are not really paying attention to this multi-channel problem. They're not investing in multi-channel integration. In our last data that we have at Forrester, it shows that only 35% of companies were planning to integrate their communication channels together. And so the other problem is that agents don't have a record of all the past information, the customer details, the past inquiry details, to be able to understand who the customer is and the prior interactions and the purchase history of a particular customer. So what this means is that agents aren't able to personalize the interactions that they've had with a customer and build on the knowledge and the relationship that has already been previously established with the customer. And then there's a problem of social media. Many customers started trying to contact companies, customer service organizations via the social channels, and companies were forced to respond via social channels to these inquiries, because if they didn't, it would end up eroding their brand. But adopting these social technologies was typically done in a very reactive way, not in a way that extended or augmented the value of the customer service organization and processes. And what this means is that these social channels ended up being implemented in a technology silo, completely disconnected from the rest of the contact center applications. And more than that, they ended up being staffed by marketing folks, or even worse yet, outsourced to PR folks. And these were folks that weren't following the same business processes or the same SLAs that had already been established for the other communication channels. And then these channels started to be seen as backdoor entryways into customer service organizations, bypassing all the established policies and procedures that had been that already had been communicated to customers. And then you look at here's some interesting data that I pulled recently. It's really interesting to see how complex our world is getting. So let me take you through the data that's on the screen. What it means, and I'm sure that many of you on this webinar can relate, is that many customers are also company employees, and then they work in different locations. Almost 9% work from at least 3 physical locations a month. Almost 13% use at least 3 connected devices for work. And 2% use at least seven different applications for work. So what this means is if you're a customer service organization, you have to provide this consistent level of service across devices, across different applications, and it adds to the complexity of the world that we live in, and it puts a lot of pressure on companies to be able to offer consistent service across, again, communication channels and touch points. And more than that, to add another level of complexity on that is that customers, like all of you, you don't differentiate between a discovery or a buying or a servicing interaction. You just want to interact with a company. And as you discover the products and services that a company has that you want to buy, as you buy, as you get service, again, you may use a range of touch points and communication channels. However, under the hood, look at the way that companies are organized. They are organized in these functional silos of sales, marketing, customer service. And these functional silos don't share the same data. They don't share the same processes. They don't even share they don't share the same systems. They may have a completely different Salesforce automation system that's completely disconnected from the customer service systems. And what this means is that customers don't get consistent experiences across their engagement lifetime that goes outside of just customer service interactions. So it's a really, really challenging world that we're living in today, and that's one of the reasons why companies have not been able to improve their customer experience scores over the last 6 years that we've been measuring them. So how do you start? By looking at trying to make the experience that you offer to your customers across the different communication channels better. So first of all, start by asking, who are your customers? What do they want from you? How are they interacting with you? A retail brand that caters to a youth audience will have a very different customer profile than a financial institution that caters to high net worth individuals. So figure out who your customers are, what their profiles are, what their demographics are. Ask them, what is it that they want to do with you? What are the main journeys that they want to take with you? And these journeys, you can map them out to just customer service journeys, or you can be more ambitious and map them out across discovery, buying, and servicing activities. So here's an example of a journey about a customer finding an offer for a new credit card. And then they go and apply for it. They read the terms and conditions. They get the new card in the mail. They get their first statement. It's a card that has loyalty points associated with it. They get a charge that they want to dispute, and then they want to exercise their rewards by calling the contact center. And so every step of this journey you want to chart out, and you want to measure the effectiveness of delivering on-target experiences. And what you're seeing here on the screen is this customer journey that has different levels of success in being able to meet expectations. And so what you want to do is look at every step of this process, of this customer journey, and figure out the ones that are working for the customer and the ones that are giving them pain. And then what you want to do is root cause why these steps are giving the customer so much pain. And here is an example. This is of a very, a much more detailed customer journey, where they're looking at each step and saying, is this a moment of truth? Is this a step that really has an impact to the customer experience? Is it a pain point? Is this a step where customers are leaving the process? Is there a problem with handing off the customer from one step to the next? Are you not providing the right information to the agent who needs to deal with that customer in the next step? So again, you need to look at your pain points and figure out what's going on. Is it a broken business process? Is it that data isn't being shared across different organizations? Is it back office data that's not available at the right point to be able to solve the customer's problem? And then you want to take all this insights that you've gathered from this customer journey mapping and then use it to optimize, make better your offering for your interactions. So here's a great example from USAA. This is a company, it's a financial services company that caters to military families or military personnel and their families. And what they ended up doing is they looked at the process of buying a car from the customer standpoint. It's one of the most difficult interactions, one of the most stressful interactions for a customer. And they said, what are the three main steps of buying a car? And they said, first of all, you got to find your car. Then you got to pay for it. You got to get a loan, and you got to get your purchase financed. And then you need to get it insured. And what they did is, again, in most times, this is a very disconnected and disjointed process. But they put themselves in their customer's shoes, and they crafted a process that's actually, it's available completely online that provides this consistent journey and consistent set of experiences, business processes, data, etc., under the hood to be able to provide this level of customer satisfaction that customers expect that keeps them loyal. And in our customer experience surveys, USAA garners some of the highest customer experience scores year over year because they really have this outside-in perspective on putting themselves in their customer's shoes and ensuring that all interactions are viewed and are measured in the way that customers want to receive service. So to wrap this up, being able to provide multi-channel customer service, it's very difficult, but it's also critical because good customer service across the different communication channels that you provide is a way to keep your customers satisfied, and customer satisfaction correlates to customer loyalty and increased revenue. So how do you start? And I really look at it as a four-part process. Start with your strategy. What is your customer strategy? Is your customer service strategy aligned to your company strategy? And who are your customers? How do they want to interact with you? What are the channels that they're using? What are the touch points that they're using? What are the main types of interactions that they want to have with you? And then what are they saying about you? And use that insight to optimize your processes. Then you want to choose the right technology that's going to support your organization today and allow you to grow in the future. And fourthly, it's not only about strategy and process and technology. It's also about people. And what you want to do is you want to morph yourself into a customer-focused company. And what this means is that you're not just paying lip service to this concept. You want to ensure that customer-centric actions are pervasive in your company, and they infuse every action, every decision. And you want to communicate these values to your customer service organizations and reinforce them with the right measurements, the right metrics, the right incentives and really reward your agents that embody these customer-centric principles. Okay, and with that, I will hand it back to Lee.
Okay, thank you, Kate, for such an informative presentation. We'll now pass the presentation over to Chris Dutoy of Jacada to provide some innovative solutions to providing continuity in the customer journey. Hello, Chris.
Thank you, Lee, for that introduction and certainly for moderating the webinar. And thank you, Kate, for, as always, a very informative and obviously well-researched presentation. And good morning, good afternoon to all our attendees. I'm sure you have a lot of questions for Kate, so I'll keep it brief so we can get into a Q&A session and just beg your indulgence for just a little while longer. So the question really is, why do we need a consistent customer journey? And Kate's already established the need for this consistent journey and how we know it's the primary driver behind a good customer experience. So I'm not asking this in terms of what is the benefit, but rather in the sense of why has this become an issue now of all times? And to understand this, it helps to look at a little bit at the history. We spent the last decade chasing this 360-degree view of the customer. We wanted to know who we're talking to across disparate systems, across disparate business units, and we spent literally billions of dollars creating this single view and a consolidated view of a customer just so that we could know who we're talking to. But while we were building this 360-degree view of the customer, the number of input channels grew. And suddenly, we have multiple ways that our customers can reach us. And we started with voice, we added IVR, then we added web, then we added chat to that, now social and now mobile. And the number of channels just grew. And we know how frustrating it is as a customer when we're told one thing on one channel and contradicted on another channel. Earlier, in the day, you might be on the website, and the website says this checking account for your bank, it's free checking. But then you speak to the agent, and the agent's telling you, actually, there's a minimum deposit requirement to have free checking, which contradicts what you also did earlier on a chat session, where you're told that as long as there's a monthly deposit into your account, it would be free, otherwise there's a charge. So you get this contradictory information, and it's very frustrating. So just while we were busy trying to understand the customer, suddenly it's the customer trying to understand us. And now customers are expecting a 360-degree view of the company instead. So it's almost flipped itself on its head. So what does this consistent customer journey look like? It's really about two issues, and Kate has alluded to these, is consistency and continuity. We've already discussed the consistency. We need that same information regardless of the channel that the customer is contacting us. The moment we start giving different information or start contradicting ourselves, the customer is going to be turned off by the service they're receiving. And this is not just consistency of information, it's got to be a consistency of process. If I cancel my account on the website, the process should be the same as if I'm canceling my account on the phone, on chat, social, or mobile. It shouldn't break down depending on the channel that I'm using. So it's consistency of information and it's consistency across these processes. The other key aspect of this is continuity. If I start in one channel, I should be able to continue in a different channel and even finish in a third channel. I might start in the morning doing a travel reservation on the website, run out of time, so I jump in my car to get to work. While I'm driving to work, I decide to phone and complete my travel reservation. When I reach that agent, I would hope that they already have everything that I've entered into the website up to this point, given that I've already found the flight that I want, instead of repeating everything again. So consistency and continuity are key behind this, providing a customer journey. So then, of course, the million-dollar question is, how is this consistent journey accomplished? It obviously sounds great, but how do we realistically get to this point? And we call this the Interact platform. And what's key to understanding all of this is the fact that if you're using a single design environment to create your customer interactions, and that's depicted here at the top of this diagram, but once you start using one single design environment to create your various customer interactions, you can now use that same interaction on different channels. And, our Interact server will actually take those interactions and render it in the way that's most appropriate for that channel, because we know that a web interaction is vastly different to an IVR transaction, or is vastly different to an SMS transaction. So you create your interactions once, but then you render them out appropriately for that channel. So if you do that, what you've immediately achieved is that consistency, because now, no matter which channel is being used to reach your organization, they are at the end of the day running the same interaction behind the scenes. So we have that consistency. And we now have the ability to provide the continuity, because the server is now able to keep track of where you were in one channel, save that session or conversation, and then resume it on any other channel. So that's key to providing this consistency and continuity. But where does it begin? I'm sure everyone in this call feels, okay, it resonates. I understand the need for a consistent customer journey. But where do we begin? Because it's obviously a larger initiative to get something like this going. So our recommendation is to start by really dipping your toes in the water with something that's simple to implement, but that delivers great value for your customers and is the first step into this multi-channel solution. And so what we're suggesting is to start with your IVR channel by simply taking your IVR and extending it onto the mobile. And this is something we call Visual IVR, which is becoming more and more important in today's age, because we know that IVR effectiveness is decreasing as mobile use is increasing. IVRs are not our favorite source of dealing with a company in the first place, but it's made all the more difficult on a mobile device, because we have to keep taking the phone away from our ear to look at the options, push the right number, and then putting it back to our ear, listening to the next part of the call tree, and it's just never been our preferred way of communicating. So what we propose with Visual IVR is providing a menu-driven interface to your IVR, so that you conveniently, or your customers conveniently, see the menu options, and they can really click their way or touch their way through your IVR system. This, of course, has a lot of benefits, because not only are menus a lot easier to navigate, and you don't have to listen to all the entire call tree before knowing which option to select. You can quickly click your way through. It's also a lot easier to enter, for example, alphanumeric data. We've all struggled with that on an IVR, where when we have to do alphanumeric data, such as an email address or alphanumeric account number. So providing your IVR projected onto your mobile phone is a great way of just improving that whole IVR experience to your customers. And it just delivers a better experience overall. Obviously, it's far more efficient to listening to audio. It's really not uncommon to see these introductory IVR prompts being over 1 minute as they explain the different options and everything that you can do. And that's the entire minute, at least, that your customer is on the phone just waiting to understand which option to press. And of course, a high number of zero outs on a traditional IVR. We get fed up of trying to navigate our way through a call tree, and we just hit 0. So we don't even get the routing benefit that the IVR was supposed to give us. So Visual IVR provides a much better experience for our customers. Obviously, that gives us increased self-service. We actually do call avoidance, because now people are not just hitting 0, they're actually clicking their way through the options and getting the benefit of IVR self-service that IVR promised all along. There's lower IVR and telephony costs as well, because the customer is now spending less time in the actual IVR system. You're not listening to those multi-minute introductory prompts. You're clicking your way through on a data plan. It's much more cost-effective. And then lower handle times on the call for the calls that do come in, because when that screen pops for the agent, we're able to show everything that the customer has already performed on their IVR, and we don't have to ask for that information again, so you've obviously saved significant handle time there. So how does it work? Your IVR today probably runs something called a voice XML or VXML. So what was key for us with Visual IVR is to make this a very quick, very painless way of starting to get a multi-channel process going. So your existing IVR takes these VXML or voice XML scripts and then sort of gives you the audio prompts on your phone and waits for input from the customer to push 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, etc. So Visual IVR takes those same VXML scripts and will actually render them visually on your mobile phone. So the beauty here is you can actually use your same set of interactions you've already created for your IVR system and now render them on your mobile phone. You don't need to create a second set of interactions or even maintain multiple sets of interactions depending on the channel. So you've then taken your IVR channel, really extended it onto the mobile device without increasing the number of interactions you've had to create, and most importantly, you've now taken that first step in this consistent customer journey, because we now have 2 experiences from the customer, whether they use the mobile or the voice IVR, and they're getting that same consistent experience, which is what we started off this presentation by promising. In summary, if you look at what something like Visual IVR can give you, and really reading bottom to top, this is your first step in that consistent customer journey. And we know mobile is becoming the new engagement channel. Customers are increasingly turning to their mobile device. And furthermore, we know that IVR is really not the favorite or preferred communication form with your organization, but we understand and appreciate the investment in there and the benefit that IVR does give us. But so we can leverage and reuse your existing IVR scripts and make this very easy to adopt, very short time to market offering, and get you started on your multi-channel experience. So with that, I would like to turn it back to Lee so we can get into some Q&A sessions, as I'm sure there's many questions based on all the information we've received up to now. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Lee.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris, for your valuable insights. So we'll now answer a few questions that have already been added to the Q&A window. The first one, I thank you for your questions so far. There's quite a few in the window, and some of them are long, so bear with me. The first question actually is for Kate. Let's see. It says, what do you think is the primary driver behind these customer journey initiatives? I ask because although companies talk about the customer experience, I find that what they really want is to lower cost. And I'd like to get your thoughts on positioning the customer journey as a cost savings cuttings exercise.
Oh, that's a really good question, Lee. Let me think about this one. So I think you can look at it from a micro and then a macro level. So let's start from a very micro, very tactical level. Look at the customer journey that Chris just talked about. The broken process of going from your mobile phone to navigating a menu, an IVR menu tree in the old way. And then he pointed out a real quantifiable benefit in terms of the length of call that you can achieve by moving to a more visual IVR. So what this means is you can look at a single broken step in your entire customer journey and write a very tactical business case with quantifiable ROI for fixing that particular step. So that's the micro level, and it's a very pragmatic way of going about it that resonates with the economic climate that we live in, because at the beginning of the webinar I said I'm not seeing a lot of transformative projects. I see these incremental improvements in being able to move the needle on customer experience. So if you look at it from the macro level, you want to focus on customer journey mapping, because end-to-end, it's going to make the customer experience better. And a better customer experience correlates to customer satisfaction, correlates to customer loyalty, correlates to an increased revenue for that, or wallet share for that particular customer over their engagement lifetime. So again, you can look at it very tactically or sort of more holistically.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate. Let's see, the next question that just came in, maybe more suitable for you, Chris. It says, how do you typically justify the spend on a solution like Visual IVR?
Yeah, surely I'll take that one. I think you can look at that at two levels. There's the strategic multi-channel customer journey that that Kate's been talking about, and that's where you have to justify the spend on providing a better customer experience, which is a retentions play, it's an upsell play, and so forth. But more tactically, something like Visual IVR, there's an immediate savings and ROI there because your customers are spending less time in the IVR itself, so you're lowering your IVR costs and you're lowering your telephony costs. You're also lowering your call times because when the calls do come in, the agent already has information on their screen, so your AHT or average handle time has been reduced. And then there's a big call avoidance play as well because using something like Visual IVR, customers are more apt to actually go through the entire call tree without just zeroing out. So they're actually getting the self-service benefit. So you'll find a big part of the ROI is a call avoidance as well. So I think there's multiple ways to be able to justify that kind of spend.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Kate, earlier during your presentation, a question came in. Someone says, your presentation clearly highlighted the importance of the customer experience, made all the more difficult because of the channels, yet one of your slides mentioned that only around 20% of companies are doing multi-channel integration over the short term. So what do you think is the picture will look like in a longer time frame, and what will be the catalyst that will force companies to invest more in multi-channel integration?
So the picture is going to look a lot better. Companies are able to vote with their feet, and if you don't provide experiences in line with their expectations, they're going to leave you. And just looking at your customer churn numbers is enough to put pressure, economic pressure, on the company to do something about multi-channel integration. But multi-channel integration is going to be done in a very tactical way. Again, I'm not seeing these huge transformative projects where companies throw out their old technology ecosystem and bring in the new. It's looking at the pain points within a particular journey. So if your transition from mobile to IVR is your major pain point, I can see dedicated resources and funding being addressed to that. So again, it's not going to be a transformative project, but it's going to be these very tactical projects to be able to work on multi-channel integration. What was the second part of the question? The catalyst that will...
Yeah,
I think,
the catalyst, yes.
That's going to force companies to invest in multi-channel integration. I think it's customer satisfaction, and then on the other end is customer defection and your churn numbers and your erosion to your brand.
Okay, well, along the lines of technology changes and starting a project such as this, the next question is along those lines. It says, our IVR does use a lot of pre-recorded audio prompts, so how does Visual IVR handle those existing prompts? Chris?
Sure. So, a key sort of design principle behind Visual IVR is to work seamlessly with your existing IVR or VXML scripts. If you do have a lot of audio prompts where your VXML is actually just referencing pre-recorded audio files, we do go through a one-time mapping exercise where we can just map those audio files to the corresponding text. It's a pretty quick and painless process. So I do thank the person for asking that question, since they obviously understand VXML, and we'd be happy to do a follow-up on that as well. But yeah, there is a one-time mapping exercise between the audio prompts and your VXML file.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Due to our time growing short, we're going to ask one last question. I think this may be yours, Kate. It says, in your experience, who typically owns the customer journey initiative in an organization, at least from the standpoint of driving it through the company and creating the journey map?
Oh, that's hard. So whoever owns the customer is responsible for the customer journey mapping exercise. So in some companies, it's your chief customer officer. Not all companies have a chief customer officer. It could be your CMO. It hardly ever is the the contact center manager or the customer service manager. Where I see it work well is with cross-functional groups that involve customer experience, marketing, service, as well as whoever owns the e-commerce part of the business. And again, many companies are very pragmatic about looking at their customer experience journey mapping. And they, instead of doing these end-to-end journeys across discovery, buying, and servicing activities, they may look at journey maps just for customer service. And then that would fall under the purview of the customer service organization. And those are simpler journey maps to map out. And from a resource and ownership perspective, they also dovetail very nicely within a single siloed organization. So it makes the exercise of finding the pain points and being able to address them easier as well.
We've had quite a few questions come in, and we're going to actually, for the ones we can't answer now on the line, we'll answer those for you via email. I do have one last question, Kate, I want to ask you that's along the same lines what you're just speaking on. The question says, mapping customer journeys is complicated due to multiple disconnected systems. Are there best practices or tools that can assist with this exercise?
There are. There's a wide range of tools, a wide range of analytics as well, analytics packages that look at customer journey mapping, and many of those analytics you can get from the respective vendor solutions that you have in place. The tools that are most suitable are really dependent on your technology ecosystem. If you want to dig into this more, the best thing would be to either contact Jacada or contact me at Forrester, and we can look at your technology ecosystem and figure out what makes the most sense. Because there are going to be different tools, different analytics packages for all the different technologies that a company currently supports.
Okay, thank you very much, Kate. So that concludes our webinar today. Change the channel, keep the customer. Thanks again to our presenters, Kate Leggett of Forrester Research and Chris DeToy of Jacada. If there are any questions that we weren't able to answer during today's session, we will respond to those directly to you after the event. We hope that you have gained valuable insight into how to immediately start implementing a successful multi-channel customer journey. A replay of the event will be available soon on Jacada.com, and if you would like a copy of the slide decks, please contact me directly at ljudge@Jacada.com. Thank you for attending today. Please visit Jacada.com again and have a wonderful day.